Week 11 DFS. Here are 5 of my favourite players to build around this week, whether it's tournament or cash games. I've been using these players in lineups as I start honing in on what I want to play this weekend. Give me 10 minutes of your time. We're going to walk through each player and why I can't get away from this week. If you want to cash on DraftKings, I'm going to help you. I'm going to get a head start on those lineups, going to give you all the stats and key facts that matter, and we're going to make sure this week is a profitable week. First player, it is CJ Stroud. You can see there on screen from our full preview screen. We've got CJ Stroud at 7K this week. The price is going up, but it deserves to because he's having an incredible rookie season. It shows no signs of slowing down. Stroud's now averaging more passing yards than any other quarterback at 291 per game, which rank. But what's really important here is that he's doing it all whilst completing only 61% of his passes. That ranks 30th amongst quarterback with 50+ attempts, meaning there's room for it to be even better than what we've seen from Stroud so far. If he can get up to a closer to league average, sort of 63, 64% completion rate, then we could see even more passing yards, even more touchdowns, even more big plays. Stroud's had more top 12 weekly finishes than Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, and a host of other names we'd expect to be outperforming the rookie in a situation that none of us coming into this season thought was going to be particularly fruitful for fantasy production. The Cardinals, they allow the 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, pressure the quarterback at a league low 29%, and they just can't stop anything through the air. They give up a league high 72% catch rate to wide receivers. The usage suggestions I've got on this one, it's viable in all formats, whether you're playing double up multipliers, small tournaments, large tournaments. I prefer stacking Stroud with 2 of his wide receivers this week. Dalton Schultz is a bit of a tougher matchup against the Cardinals. And I'd prefer to add Trey McBride on the other side, who was a good matchup. I wouldn't be against going a full-blown game stack here and mixing in one of Hollywood Brown or Rondale Moore as well as Trey McBride. You know, it's a 48-point over-under, one of the best of the week, one of the biggest of the week, and hopefully this game gives us kind of fireworks that we're hoping for. Moving on to our second player, Austin Ekeler, 8,600 against the Packers. The Chargers pass catching group, it's really depleted right now. You know, Keenan Allen's missing practices, Gerald Everett's missing games, Mike Williams is missing for the rest of the season. Quentin Johnson, he's never arrived, let alone missing anything. You know, in reception perception, he's like dead last amongst all rookies in pretty much every metric that Matt Harmon tracks. Meanwhile, Austin Ekeler, he's in good form. He's finished as a top 6 running back option in the last 3 consecutive games. Now he gets Packers defense that allows the 7th most fantasy points to running backs, the 7th most rushing yards per game at 105, and the 7th most receptions per game to the position. You can see on the screen there the 44-point over-under. The Chargers defense, they can't stop anyone. So there are going to be points in this one as long as the Packers can actually turn up. This is what we look for in a cash game running back. You know, we want a running back who's in a situation where he's going to see lots of volume, who can see work in the receiving game. So I'm really prioritizing Austin Ekeler in cash formats this week. In tournaments, I quite like playing him as a bring back on Jordan Love stacks. The Chargers, they allow the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. They allow the 3rd most yardage to wide receivers. So you can take shots on Jordan Love and 1 or 2 of those really cheap Green Bay wide receivers this week and put Austin Ekeler on the other side of things. And that's built you out a really nice game stack straight away. If you are here, if this is your first time finding Fantasy Sanctuary, hit that subscribe button down below. We're trying to hit 1,500 subscribers by Thanksgiving. It's a big mission, but we're trying hard. We will help you win leagues. We will help you win money at DFS. That's all we're interested in. Moving on. Chicago at Detroit, 46.5 over-under. Player here, it's Jahmyr Gibbs, who's at 7K. David Montgomery's 6.5K, and I would feel like people will be drawn to both of them this week, and I think you can feel fairly confident in either of them. After all, for David Montgomery, this is a revenge game. The Bears let him walk last offseason. They didn't try to keep him. And Dan Campbell does seem like the kind of coach who understands what that means for a player when they go back and play against a former team who didn't want them. But the Bears' rushing defense, it's legit. They've not allowed a running back to total more than 44 yards since week 4. They've only allowed 2 players over 65 rushing yards all season. But where the Bears' defense is really vulnerable is through the receiving game to running backs, where they allow a league-high 61 receiving yards at 10.3 yards per reception, which is the 2nd most. They average a league high 0.5 running back receiving touchdowns per game. They just can't stop running backs when the ball is being passed to them. I think if you're looking for usage suggestions on this play, it's not really one which I'm going to in cash games. I'd rather prioritize getting up to Austin Ekeler, and that might mean going down to someone like Jerome Ford for my second running back. But in tournaments, I'm intrigued by stacking Jahmyr Gibbs with Jared Goff. I think you could use Amon-Ra St. Brown or Sam Laporta, who've both got favorable matchups. And I think having the running back stacked with the quarterback, it's a different stack. It's not a common stack. It's already going to help you climb up leaderboard in tournaments when it hits. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Tampa Bay at San Francisco, 41.5 over under. And this one, for me, it's Brandon Aiyuk at 7,200. The breakout, it's not been as amazing as it looked like it might be for Brandon Aiyuk. After the opening 3 games that he played, he had 2 top 8 performances, but since then he's averaged 12.5 PPR points, finished outside the top 20 wide receivers every single week. But this can be the get-right spot that Aiyuk needs. The Bucs have given up plenty of big games to wide receivers this year. There's 6 different players have totaled over 100 yards in the receiving game against him. 10 different wide receivers have scored over 15 or more PPR points, and they've allowed 10 touchdowns to wide receivers as well. The Buccaneers, they're good against the run, they're poor against the pass, and they're particularly poor against the pass on the outside where Brandon Aiyuk plays. So I'm not playing Brandon Aiyuk in cash games this week simply because of the price point. When I've been building lineups, it doesn't seem to work for me, and I'm not quite sure about the sort of reliable volume that we always look for in the cash games. But in tournaments, I like stacking Brock Purdy with Brandon Aiyuk, and then on the other side, pairing it with Mike Evans, who was a nice matchup himself. For Niners, they allow the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers lined up out wide, and that's where Mike Evans has made a career out of winning the ball. Over the last 4 games, Mike Evans had 87.75 yards per game, 0.75 touchdowns per game. So you can add him on. We'll call that a bonus play in there. Really like Mike Evans as well. We are going to get over to the last play. But if you're here, if you're enjoying this video, we are rattling through and we've got all these stats, all these plays. Week after week, I'm here doing this. But if you want more DFS content, if your redraft team's down the toilet and you're looking for a way to make some money at this time of the season, come and join us in the sanctuary. Hit the join button below. For less than $2 a week, you get access to the Discord where I write a fully comprehensive write-up every week detailing which players I like, what formats I like them for, what stacking partners I'd be using them with. You also get all of Rich's Dynasty content, which is hands down some of the best stuff you can get out there, and exclusive access to our Discord where we'll answer any question you ever come up with. We want to help you win. Last player, back to the Arizona-Houston game. This time we're looking at the tight end Trey McBride. Kind of hinted it earlier, but he's got a really nice matchup. Kyler Murray's return, it was a good one for Trey McBride. He had the second-year tight end targeted 9 times for 8 receptions and 131 yards. The Texans, they ranked 29th versus tight ends in DVOA. They allow a league-high 15.8 fantasy points to position. They've let 6 different tight ends have top 12 weeks against them this season. So it all just stacks up for another big Trey McBride week. I think that we can expect Trey McBride to be chalky. Like the 3rd time this year, we'll probably see Trey McBride come in at over 20% ownership. So don't worry about it in cash games. We can just plug and play him in at 4,400. I think we can easily see 15 points from him again. And in tournaments, I already talked about this, but I love CJ Stroud double stacks. I love attacking this game aggressively with 4, possibly even 5 players from it in total. And yeah, hopefully this game lives up to expectations. If you like all those stats on screen, check out the Week 11 preview that we do. We go game by game. I talk DFS, Rich talks Dynasty. We talk key matchups. We answer your questions. Every game's covered every week. It's in the link below. And do me a favor, hit that like button. I know you've enjoyed this content. I know this is going to set you up for a good winning week. Subscribe. Come back next week. We're going to do Thanksgiving DFS must plays as well as Week 12 ones. Loads of content coming to you here on the Sanctuary. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you soon.